The research ship Horizon moved quietly through the field of space rocks around planet HD 9801c. Scientists had found signs that this planet might have complex life. Dr. Do-Hyun Kim stood looking out the big window, watching the blue-green world grow larger as they got closer. "The air readings are good," said Jiwoo Park from her workstation. "Oxygen is at 22%, nitrogen at 75. It is very much like Earth." Do-Hyun nodded and made notes on his tablet. Their ship had come to this star system after long-range scans had found unusual energy patterns coming from the planet. These patterns suggested either strange natural events or the first real proof of alien intelligence. Captain Min-jae Lee spoke through the ship's speaker system. "Dr. Kim, we have found a distress signal from the planet's surface. It does not match any pattern we know. Can we find out where it is coming from?" Do-Hyun asked, his heart beating faster. This could be the first contact situation that humans had been getting ready for since they first went to space. "We already did," replied Min-jae. "It is coming from the northern landmass near what looks like a thick forest. I am sending the location to your station now." Do-Hyun studied the new data. The signal was not just random noise, it had structure, repeated patterns, and what the language computer suggested might be a form of grammar. "I want to lead the ground team," Do-Hyun said firmly. Hours later, the smaller exploration ship broke through the clouds. Beside Do-Hyun sat Medical Officer Yoon-ji Choi and Security Chief Tae-Hyun-yoon. All three wore standard protective suits, though early scans suggested they could probably breathe the air. "Remember the rules," Tae-Hyun warned as the small ship landed in a clearing. "We watch first. We do not step in unless we absolutely must." The forest around them was both like and unlike Earth. Tall trees with purple-tinted leaves that seemed to shine in the orange light of the system's star. The plants near the ground gave off a faint glow even during daylight. As they stepped out, Do-Hyun's sensors immediately detected the distress signal growing stronger. "This way," he said, pointing toward a thick group of bushes about 50 meters ahead. They moved carefully, recording everything. The alien forest was full of sounds, clicks, whistles, and what seemed like distant musical humming. When they reached the source of the signal, all three humans stopped in their tracks. In a small hollow beneath the twisted roots of a massive tree lay a creature unlike anything they had seen before. About the size of a large dog, it had 6 limbs and was covered in shiny scales that changed color with each difficult breath. Its head had 3 eye stalks, all closed or badly damaged, and what looked like hearing organs stuck out from the sides of its long skull. But what struck Do-Hyun most was how clearly young the creature was. Its body shape suggested it was a baby, perhaps even a newborn of its kind, and it was clearly dying. "Life signs are getting weaker," Yoon-ji whispered, checking her scanner. "Serious internal injuries and what looks like severe lack of water. There are signs of other life forms all around," Tae-Hyun noted, pointing to many tracks in the soft soil. "But they have all stayed away from this one. Why would they leave their young behind?" Do-Hyun knelt closer, his scientific curiosity briefly overcome by something more basic: compassion. The creature sent out another weak pulse of its distress signal, a sound that somehow translated across the barriers of evolution and star systems as nothing other than pain and fear. "We need to help it," Do-Hyun said. "The rules state—" Tae-Hyun began. "I know what the rules state," Do-Hyun cut in. "But if this is truly an intelligent species, how we respond to their suffering may define humanity's relationship with them forever." As he spoke, the creature's eyes flickered open briefly, showing complex, many-sided orbs that fixed directly on Do-Hyun before closing again in exhaustion. The team quickly set up a small camp around the injured alien baby. Yoon-ji ran tests with her portable medical equipment while Tae-Hyun set up a security perimeter. "Its body structure is unlike anything I have seen," Yoon-ji said, looking at her scanner readings. "But I can tell it is suffering from both physical trauma and extreme dehydration." Do-Hyun carefully placed a small water container near the creature's mouth area. After a moment of hesitation, a small tube-like organ extended and drew in some water. "Good," Do-Hyun said softly. "That is a start." As the alien sun began to set, casting long shadows through the forest, they noticed movement at the edge of their camp. Taehyun raised his weapon, but Dohyun motioned for him to lower it. "We are being watched," Dohyun whispered. Indeed, in the growing darkness they could make out several pairs of glowing eyes. Different shapes and sizes suggested various species were observing them from a safe distance. If these are the parents or members of its kind, why do they not come help? Yoonji wondered. The baby creature made a soft, warbling cry that seemed to ripple through the air. In response, the watching eyes retreated slightly, but did not leave. "Something is not right here," Taehyun said. "In nature, even on Earth, parents protect their young. These creatures are deliberately staying away." As night fully fell, the temperature dropped rapidly. The alien baby's life signs began to weaken further. Its scales, which had been shifting between blues and greens, began to turn a dull gray. "It is getting worse," Yoonji reported. "Without knowing more about its biology, I can only do so much." Dohyun made a decision. He removed the top part of his protective suit, exposing his face and upper body to the alien air. "What are you doing?" Taehyun asked in alarm. "Building trust," Dohyun replied. He took a breath of the alien air. It was thinner than Earth's, but had a sweet smell, like cinnamon mixed with something else. He moved closer to the creature and gently placed his hand on what seemed to be its shoulder. The baby alien tensed at first, then relaxed. Its breathing became slightly less labored. "Look at the observers," Yoonji whispered. The watching creatures had formed a loose circle around their camp. In the glow of their equipment lights, Dohyun could now see dozens of different alien forms, some tall and thin, others low to the ground, some with multiple limbs, others with none visible. The most striking thing was that none made any move to approach the dying baby. "They are waiting for something," Dohyun said softly. "But what?" The baby alien's eyes opened again, all three focusing directly on Dohyun. In that moment, across the vast gulf of different evolution and biology, Dohyun felt a connection. He saw intelligence there and fear, and a desperate will to live. As the alien night grew deeper and colder, the baby's condition worsened. Its breathing became more irregular, and its scales lost more of their color. "We cannot just let it die," Dohyun said firmly, still keeping his hand on the creature. In the darkness all around them, the watching aliens began to make sounds, low, harmonizing tones that were not quite a song, but carried clear emotional. "Wait. They are singing," Yoonji realized. "But they still will not help." Dohyun looked at the dying alien child, then at the circle of watching eyes in the darkness. He made a choice that would change everything. He began to sing. Night fell quickly on planet HD 9801C. The forest became very dark except for the soft glow of plants that made their own light. The research team had set up a small camp around the hurt alien baby. They put up a protective barrier to shield it from the weather. "I have studied its body as best I can," Yoonji said, looking at data on her small computer. "Its genetic structure is amazing. It has 3 strands instead of 2 like Earth life. But these injuries..." She shook her head. "I do not understand how it lived this long." Dohyun watched the creature, which now rested on a warm blanket under a makeshift shelter. "What caused the injuries?" "That is the strange part," Yoonji replied. "Some look like they came from a fall, many broken bones that match high-impact trauma. But others..." She pointed to strange marks along the creature's side. "These look deliberate, almost like a ritual." Taehyun, who had been checking the area around them, came back with troubling news. "We are being watched," he said quietly. "Many life forms are keeping their distance. They could come closer if they wanted to, but they are choosing not to." A cold feeling came over Dohyun. "They have abandoned it," he whispered. "But why?" As if answering him, the baby made a low, warbling cry that seemed to ripple through the air. Almost right away, the surrounding forest fell silent, all the sounds of alien wildlife stopping as if someone had turned off a switch. "That is not," A normal reaction, Taehyun observed, his hand moving to his weapon. Predators usually check out sounds of hurt prey. Yoonji's scanner made a beeping noise. Its vital signs are getting worse again. Without knowing more about its body, I can only offer the most basic help. The baby's eyes opened once more, all three moving independently before focusing on the humans. It tried to get up but fell back down, a shudder running through its body. Do-hyun made a decision that would later be debated in ethics committees across Earth. He completely removed his protective helmet. "What are you doing?" Taehyun hissed. "Building trust," Do-hyun replied, taking a deep breath of the alien air. It was thinner than Earth's but surprisingly sweet, with hints of something like cinnamon and a sharp, clean smell. He moved closer to the creature and, following his instinct rather than scientific rules, placed a gentle hand on what seemed to be its shoulder. The baby tensed, then relaxed, its breathing becoming slightly less difficult. "The other species, on this planet," Do-hyun said out loud. "They have evolved together, sharing this environment for millions of years. There must be a reason they are avoiding this young one. Something we are missing." As darkness deepened, more creatures appeared, at the edges of their camp, shadowy forms with different body shapes, all keeping their distance, all watching. Their eyes reflected the light from the humans' equipment, creating a ring of eerie, glowing dots in the darkness. "It is like they are waiting for something," Yoonji whispered. The baby made another sound, higher pitched and more urgent than before. Its scales began to pulse with weak light, a beautiful but somehow sad display of colors rippling across its body. One of the watchers stepped slightly forward, a tall, slender being with 4 limbs and what looked like a mane of tentacle-like parts. It made a series of complex clicking sounds, then moved back into the darkness. "Did you record that?" Do-hyun asked excitedly. Yoonji nodded. "The computer is trying to analyze it now, but—" Her voice trailed off as the baby began to shake, its life signs changing wildly. "We are losing it," she said urgently, giving what little medical help she could without knowing the creature's biology. "Its system is shutting down." Do-hyun felt a deep sense of helplessness wash over him. Here they were, members of a species advanced enough to travel between stars, yet unable to save one small life. The watching creatures began to make low, harmonizing tones, not quite a song, not quite a funeral dirge, but something that carried clear emotional weight. They are mourning, Do-hyun realized, but they still will not help. The baby's eyes fixed on him once more, and in that moment Do-hyun felt a connection that went beyond species and origin. There was intelligence there, and fear, and a desperate will to live. "We cannot just let it die," he said, his voice barely audible. Do-hyun began to sing a simple song from Earth, one his grandmother had taught him when he was a child. The song was about stars and the night sky. He sang softly, his voice carrying through the quiet clearing. The effect was immediate. The baby alien stopped shaking, and its 3 eyes opened wide, focusing on Do-hyun. "Look at this," Yoonji said, checking her scanner. "Its brain patterns are changing. They are becoming more stable." The watching aliens also reacted. Their low mourning sounds stopped, and they seemed to be listening. Do-hyun kept singing. When he finished one song, he started another. Hours passed this way. Whenever he would stop to rest his voice, the baby alien would become distressed. Its life signs would start to fail again. So Do-hyun kept singing song after song. "Its body is responding to your voice," Yoonji said in amazement. "The sound waves from your singing are somehow helping its cells to stabilize." Taehyun noticed another change. "The watchers are moving closer," he reported. "Very slowly, but they are coming nearer." Indeed, the circle of alien observers had tightened, drawing closer to the human camp with small movements. Their forms were clearer now, a variety of species with different body types, all united in their attention to the human song. As the night went on, Do-hyun's throat became sore. He had been singing for hours, stopping only for quick drinks of water that Yoonji gave him. "You need to rest," she insisted, but each time he tried, the baby would make a distressed sound, and its life signs would begin to fade once more. I cannot. Do-hyun replied simply. Not yet. What none of them had expected was how the singing would affect not just the baby, but themselves. The night had been long and strange, filled with the kind of basic connection that went beyond scientific analysis. Do-hyun sang not just for the alien child now, but for all of them, humans far from home, surrounded by mystery and danger, holding on to the familiar comfort of human music. One of the watching aliens, larger than the others, moved to the front of the group. It made a series of complex sounds, almost like it was asking a question. Taehyun tensed, his hand on his weapon, but Do-hyun gave a small shake of his head. No, he whispered between songs. I think it is trying to understand. The large alien tilted what seemed to be its head, listening to Do-hyun's voice with what looked like intense concentration. This is incredible, Yoonji said quietly. I think we are witnessing first contact happening through music instead of language. Do-hyun nodded, continuing his song. The melody seemed to float in the alien air, creating a bridge between species that had evolved on different worlds. The baby alien's color had improved slightly. Its scales now shifted between soft blues and greens instead of the dull gray from earlier. Its breathing had become more regular, and its three eyes remained fixed on Do-hyun. It is responding to the emotional content of the music, Yoonji suggested. Even though it cannot understand the words, it can feel the intent behind them. As Do-hyun sang, he felt a strange sensation. It was as if his voice was being carried further than it should, resonating through the clearing in ways that defied normal acoustics. The watching aliens seemed to feel it too, swaying slightly with the rhythm of his songs. The night deepened around them. The alien forest's plants gave off more light as it got darker, creating a surreal magical backdrop for this unlikely scene, a human singing earth songs to a dying alien child, surrounded by a growing audience of curious alien species. Whatever you are doing, Taehyun said softly. Keep doing it. I think it is working. And so Do-hyun sang on through the alien night, his voice becoming the lifeline for a creature born among the stars. The night grew deeper, and with it the condition of the alien baby got worse. The circle of watching aliens had not moved closer or farther away. They kept their watch from the shadows while continuing their strange, harmonizing sound that seemed like a sad song. They are singing it to death, Taehyun said in a grim voice. This must be their way, some kind of ritual for the dying. Yoonji had tried all her medical options. Its brain activity is jumping up and down wildly, she reported, frustration clear in her voice. If only we understood more about how its body works. Do-hyun stayed by the baby's side, his hand still resting gently on its scaled body. He could feel the creature's life force getting weaker beneath his touch, and something inside him refused to accept that it had to die. If song is their tradition for the dying, he said slowly, then perhaps. Without finishing his thought, Do-hyun began to sing. It was an old Korean lullaby his grandmother had sung to him as a child, a simple melody about stars and dreams and the safety of home. His voice was not trained but sincere, the words flowing from memory as naturally as breathing. The effect was immediate and surprising. The baby's shaking stopped, and its three eyes opened wide, fixing on Do-hyun with an intensity that seemed to look into his very soul. The watching aliens fell silent, their sad song suddenly cut off. Its brain patterns are stabilizing, Yoonji whispered in disbelief, checking her scanner. How is that possible? Do-hyun did not answer, continuing his gentle song. He moved through every lullaby and folk song he could remember from Earth, going smoothly from Korean to English to bits of other languages he had learned in his travels. Hours passed. The alien observers stayed silent now, their earlier singing replaced by what seemed like careful listening. Sometimes Do-hyun would pause because his voice was tired, and immediately the baby would become upset, its life signs wavering. Each time, he would start singing again, and the creature would calm once more. It is responding to your voice, Yoonji said, analyzing the data flowing across her tablet. More specifically, to the melody patterns. Look at these brain responses. They are matching your vocal rhythm. Taehyun, who had kept a watchful eye, noted another change. The observers are getting closer, very slowly, but they are moving forward. Indeed, the circle of alien watchers had tightened, drawing nearer to the human camp with tiny movements. Their forms were clearer now, a diverse group of species with different body shapes, all seemingly united in their attention to the human song. As dawn approached, casting the alien forest in a golden-purple light, Do-hyun's voice grew hoarse. He had been singing for hours, stopping only for quick sips of water that Yoonji pressed upon him. "You need to rest," she insisted, but each time he tried, the baby would make a distressed sound, and its life signs would begin to fade once more. "I cannot," Do-hyun replied simply. Not yet. What none of them had expected was how the singing would affect not just the baby, but themselves. The night had been long and strange, filled with the kind of basic connection that went beyond scientific analysis. Do-hyun sang not just for the alien child now, but for all of them, humans far from home, surrounded by mystery and danger, holding on to the familiar comfort of human music. As the first rays of the alien sun broke through the treetops, something remarkable happened. The baby, which had been still throughout the night, raised one of its limbs weakly and placed it on top of Do-hyun's hand. "Look," Yoonji gasped. The baby's scales had begun to change color, slowly shifting to match the tone of Do-hyun's skin. "It is copying you," Taehyun said in wonder. "Some kind of adaptive color change?" Do-hyun shook his head, still singing softly. "Not just color change," he managed between verses. "Communication," and as if to confirm his theory, the baby began to make a sound of its own, a wavering, uncertain attempt to match the melody of Do-hyun's lullaby. "It is learning," Yoonji whispered. "It is trying to sing with you." The watching aliens seemed to react to this development. Several of them moved closer, their body language suggesting intense interest. The largest among them, a tall being with multiple limbs, made a series of complex sounds that rose and fell like questions. Do-hyun continued to sing, and the baby's attempts to join him grew stronger. Together, they created a strange duet. Human, voice mixing with alien tones in the light of the alien morning. One of the watching aliens stepped fully into the clearing. It was unlike the others. Its body covered in scales similar to the baby's, though larger and with more complex patterns. It moved with caution, its 3 eye stalks fixed on the scene before it. "I think that is one of its kind," Taehyun said, quietly, his hand still near his weapon. The adult alien stopped several meters away. It made no move to approach the baby, but instead began to make a series of sounds, rising and falling tones that seemed to carry meaning beyond mere noise. The baby responded, its own voice rising to join the adults. But what amazed the humans was that the baby's response contained elements of Do-hyun's songs, earth melodies mixed with alien sounds. "It has learned from you," Yoonji said in wonder. "It has incorporated your songs into its communication." The adult alien tilted its head, as if confused by what it was hearing. It made another series of sounds, more insistent this time. The baby responded again, still incorporating elements of human music. Its 3 eyes moved between Do-hyun and the adult of its species, as if trying to bridge a gap between them. "I think we are witnessing something profound," Do-hyun said softly between songs. "Some kind of cultural exchange at the most basic level." The adult alien seemed to consider for a long moment. Then, to the human's surprise, it began to change the pattern of its sounds. Its communication started to shift, incorporating elements that sounded almost like Do-hyun's melodies, adapted for its different vocal organs, but recognizably influenced by human music. "It is learning too," Yoonji whispered. "They both are." More of the watching aliens began to approach now, forming a loose semicircle around the humans and the baby. Each species seemed to respond differently, some making sounds of their own, others simply observing in silence. But none showed any signs of hostility. The sun rose higher, warming the clearing. The baby's condition had stabilized remarkably. Though still weak, its breathing was steady, and the erratic spikes in its brain patterns had resolved into something more rhythmic, almost harmonious. "I think we should give it some food," Yoonji suggested, checking her scanner. "Its energy levels are very low." Do-hyun nodded, still humming a gentle melody. "Prepare some basic nutrients and water," he said. "Nothing complex that might harm it." As Yoonji worked, the adult alien took another step forward. It was close enough now that Do-hyun could see the intricate patterns on its scales, the way its three eyes moved independently yet in coordination, the slight vibration of what must be breathing organs. The adult extended a limb, not toward the baby, but toward Do-hyun. It held the limb mid-air, clearly waiting for something. "I think it wants to touch you," Taehyun said, tensing. "Be careful." Do-hyun considered for a moment, then slowly extended his own hand. The alien's limb, a complex appendage with multiple joints and sensitive-looking tips, hovered just above Do-hyun's palm. Then, with extraordinary gentleness, it made contact. Sensation like a mild electric current passed between them, not painful but intensely strange. Do-hyun gasped, and in that moment he felt something he could not explain, a flash of understanding that transcended language. The alien withdrew its touch, and then, deliberately, placed the same appendage on the head of the baby. Another current seemed to pass between them, and the baby trembled. "They are connected," Do-hyun realized aloud. "All of them, connected through song and touch." The adult raised itself to its full height and began a new song, lower, more resonant, filled with complex tones that seemed to echo from everywhere at once. As it sang, the baby's wounds began to glow with a soft blue light. "Its healing is speeding up," Yoonji reported in amazement. "The damaged tissues are repairing themselves at an incredible rate." Without thinking, driven by instinct rather than reason, Do-hyun joined in the alien's song. His human voice, simple compared to the alien's complex sound abilities, nevertheless, found spaces within the adult's song, complementing it in ways that felt somehow right. The baby's eyes widened, all three focusing on Do-hyun with an intensity that went beyond species. Its own voice joined the duet, creating a three-part harmony that resonated through the clearing and beyond, into the depths of the alien forest. And as they sang together, human, adult, alien, and child, the first light of true understanding passed between worlds. The alien sun climbed higher, bathing the forest in its orange glow. Do-hyun's voice had faded to a whisper, his throat raw from hours of continuous singing. Yet still he hummed melodies from across human history and culture, songs of comfort, of courage, of home. The baby alien had improved remarkably. Though still weak, its breathing had steadied, and the wild jumps in its brain patterns had changed into something more rhythmic, almost harmonious. "Its cell structure is changing," Yoonji reported, studying her scanner with wide eyes. "The damaged tissues are healing, but in a pattern I have never seen before. It is as if..." She paused, checking her readings again. "As if it is taking elements of your genetic pattern into its own healing process." "What does that mean?" Taehyun asked, dividing his attention between her explanation and the circle of alien observers, which had continued to tighten gradually throughout the night. "I think its species has evolved some kind of adaptive ability," Yoonji explained. "Perhaps as a way to survive. It is literally learning from Do-hyun's DNA how human cells repair themselves, and applying that knowledge to its own body." The implications were huge. A species that could adopt helpful traits from other life forms simply through close contact. It changed everything they understood about evolution and biology. Do-hyun, too tired for scientific debate, simply continued his quiet song. The baby had been copying him for hours now, its attempts growing more accurate with time. Together, they created a strange duet, human voice mixing with alien tones in the light of an alien morning. And then, something changed in the forest, around them. The circle of watching aliens, which had kept its distance throughout the night despite drawing closer, suddenly parted. Through the opening came a new figure, larger than the others, its body marked with what appeared to be ceremonial, patterns similar to the wounds on the baby. "Elder? Leader?" Taehyun murmured, raising his scanner. It is the same species as the baby. The alien approached slowly, its three eye stalks fixed unblinkingly on the scene before it, the human singing to the injured young one of its kind. It stopped several meters away and then did something none of them expected. It sang. The sound was complex and multi-toned, as if multiple voices emerged from a single source. It resonated through the clearing with such force that Do-hyun felt it in his chest, a physical pressure that seemed to probe at his very being. The baby responded immediately, its own voice rising to join the elder's song. But something was different. Woven into the alien melodies were unmistakable elements of the human songs Do-hyun had been singing all night. "It is a dialogue," Do-hyun whispered hoarsely between notes. "They are communicating." The elder alien tilted its head, the song changing into questioning tones. The baby responded, one limb still resting on Do-hyun's hand, its scales still matching his skin tone. "I think," Yoonji said slowly, "we are witnessing some kind of judgment." The elder approached closer, towering over the seated human and the injured baby. Its song grew more intense, and as it did, the other watching aliens began to retreat, melting back into the forest until only the elder remained. In a move that caused Taehyun to reach instinctively for his weapon, the elder extended a limb toward Do-hyun's face. Do-hyun raised a hand to stop Taehyun's reaction, somehow understanding that this moment was crucial. The alien's appendage, something between a hand and a tentacle, hovered inches from Do-hyun's face. Then, with extraordinary gentleness, it touched his throat right over his vocal cords. A sensation like electrical current passed between them, not painful but intensely strange. Do-hyun gasped, and in that moment he understood. The songs were not just communication, they were identity, soul, self. To these beings, a voice was not merely a tool, but the essence of existence. The elder withdrew its touch and then, deliberately, placed the same appendage on the head of the baby. Another current seemed to pass between them, and the baby shuddered. They are connected, Do-hyun realized aloud. All of them, connected through song. The elder raised itself to its full height and began a new song, lower, more resonant, filled with harmonics that seemed to echo from everywhere at once. As it sang, the baby's wounds began to glow with a soft blue light. "Its healing is speeding up," Yoonji reported in amazement. "The damaged tissues are regenerating at an exponential rate." The elder's song continued, building in complexity until it seemed impossible that a single being could produce such music. And yet, there was something incomplete about it, a missing element that left the melody feeling unresolved. Without thinking, driven by instinct rather than reason, Do-hyun joined in. His human voice, simple and singular compared to the alien's multitonal capabilities, nevertheless found spaces within the elder's song, complementing and completing it in ways that felt somehow right. The baby's eyes widened, all three focusing on Do-hyun with an intensity that transcended species. Its own voice joined the duet, creating a three-part harmony that resonated through the clearing and beyond, into the depths of the alien forest. As they sang together, more aliens emerged from the trees. Different species, different forms, all drawn by the harmonies being created in the clearing. They formed a circle once more, but this time there was no sense of distance or judgment, only listening and perhaps understanding. The baby's wounds were visibly healing now, the damaged tissue knitting together before their eyes. Its scales shimmered with colors that seemed to flow and change with the music, blues and greens giving way to golds and ambers that matched the morning light. Yoonji stepped closer to Do-hyun, keeping her voice low. "I think I understand now," she said. "The singing is not just communication, it is healing. These beings use harmonics to stimulate cell growth and repair." Do-hyun nodded slightly, never breaking his part in the three-way song. He had sensed as much, feeling how the vibrations from his own voice seemed to resonate with something deep within the alien physiology. The elder's song shifted again, taking on questioning tones. It looked directly at Do-hyun, its three eyes, focusing on him with what could only be described as curiosity. Taehyun moved slightly closer, protective instincts still alert. What does it want? Understanding, Do-hyun replied simply between notes. The elder reached out once more, this time placing one appendage on Do-hyun's forehead and another on the baby's head, creating a physical link between them. The sensation that flowed through this connection was unlike anything Do-hyun had ever experienced. Not words or images exactly, but concepts, emotions, understanding. In that moment of connection, knowledge flowed both ways. Do-hyun understood why the baby had been abandoned. Among this species, song was not just communication but the very fabric of their society. Each individual was born with a unique vocal pattern that allowed them to harmonize with the group. The baby had been born with a pattern that was incompatible, a dissonance that could not be integrated into the greater harmony. And yet, through human music, through melodies and harmonies evolved on a distant world around a different star, the baby had found a new pattern, a new way to harmonize. They left it to die because it could not sing with them, Do-hyun said softly as the elder withdrew its touch. But now it can sing with us. The elder stepped back, its posture changing in a way that suggested deep thought. After a long moment, it began a new song. Not the healing harmonies of before, but something that sounded almost like a proclamation or declaration. The watching aliens responded, each species adding its own voice to create a complex tapestry of sound that filled the clearing. The baby looked around in wonder, its three eyes wide, taking in the unprecedented gathering. Something important is happening, Yoonji whispered. Do-hyun nodded. I think they are accepting it back, he said. But differently now. Not as one of them exactly, but as something new. A bridge, perhaps. The elder approached the baby once more and extended a limb. The baby hesitated, looking at Do-hyun as if seeking guidance. Do-hyun smiled and nodded encouragingly. Go ahead, he said softly. They will not harm you now. The baby reached out and took the elder's offered limb. As they touched, a soft glow spread between them, not the healing light of before, but something different, a recognition, an acceptance. The elder turned its gaze to Do-hyun once more, and through the lingering connection they had shared, he understood what was being asked. They want to learn our songs, he said to his companions, and they want us to learn theirs. As the alien sun rose fully above the trees, casting long golden rays through the clearing, Do-hyun began a new song, not a lullaby this time, but an old earth melody about friendship and the bonds that transcend differences. The baby joined in first, then the elder, and gradually the entire gathering of alien species added their voices. In that moment, as dozens of different species from two different worlds sang together in the light of morning, Do-hyun knew that everything had changed, not just for this one baby alien, but for humanity's place among the stars. 3 days later, the research ship Horizon prepared to leave orbit around planet HD 9801C. The initial landing party had grown to include language experts, alien biology specialists, and cultural researchers, all working hard to document what Captain Min-jae was already calling the most important first contact in human history. Do-hyun stood once more on the observation deck, but this time he was not alone. Beside him, supported by a specially designed floating harness, hovered the once-dying alien baby, now recovered enough to be curious about everything it saw, especially the stars visible through the ship's big window. The Council of Elders has given permission for temporary guardianship, Yoonji said, joining them with a tablet full of new data. Although guardianship is not quite the right word in their way of thinking, the closest translation would be song-bearer. After that, first morning, understanding had developed quickly. The aliens, who called themselves something like the harmonious in human language, had an incredibly sophisticated form of communication that mixed sound, emotional projection, and what seemed to be limited mind reading. They had explained, through the developing translation computers and Do-hyun's growing ability to participate in their songs, why the baby had been abandoned. Among their kind, each individual was born with a unique vocal pattern, their soul song. This pattern normally developed fully during their equivalent of teenage years, guided by the communal songs of their species. But this particular baby had been born with what they considered a fundamental flaw, an inability to harmonize with the songs of its own kind. Its brain patterns were simply too different, processing sound and connection in ways that were incompatible with their communal identity. They left it to die because it could not sing properly, Taehyun had summarized, bluntly when they first understood. Not exactly, Dohyun had corrected. They left it because they believed its suffering was inevitable, that a being who cannot connect through song is effectively alone in the universe. For them, that is a fate worse than death. What none of them could have predicted was how human music, specifically the simple lullabies Dohyun had sung through that long night, would affect the baby's developing brain patterns. Human music, with its different scales, rhythms, and harmonies, had somehow provided an alternative framework for the baby's mind to organize itself around. It could not harmonize with its own kind, but it could harmonize with humans. The diplomatic implications are enormous, Captain Minjae had said during their final briefing. We have been invited to establish a permanent research station and cultural exchange center. Earth's governments are beside themselves with excitement. Now as Do-hyun watched the baby, whom he had begun to call Hanium, meaning harmony in Korean, he felt both pride and uncertainty. Is it ethical? He asked Yoonji quietly. Taking it from its homeworld? According to its own people, you saved more than its life, she replied. You gave it connection, something they believed impossible. The elders were quite clear. Hanium's path now lies with humans, at least until it grows enough to potentially bridge both forms of song. The baby, Hanium, turned one eye stalk toward them, while keeping the other two fixed on the stars. It made a short, questioning melody. Do-hyun smiled and responded with a few notes of his own. A simple acknowledgement that had become their way of communicating basic emotions. After days of practice, his vocal cords had begun to develop new capabilities, allowing him to make sounds that would have been impossible before. The medical team is fascinated by the changes in your throat structure, Yoonji noted, scanning him quickly. It seems the connection works both ways. As you taught Hanium to understand human song, its influence has been physically changing your voice box. A fair exchange, Do-hyun said softly, though I suspect the changes go deeper than physical. Indeed, something profound had shifted within him since that night beneath alien stars. The experience of connecting across such vast biological and evolutionary differences had awakened something he could not quite name, a sense of possibility and wonder that went beyond scientific curiosity. A notification chimed, indicating that final preparations for departure were complete. Soon they would activate the fold drive, leaving this remarkable world behind temporarily, though now with a living ambassador aboard. Hanium sensed the change in atmosphere and made a more complex melody, one that contained notes of anticipation, nervousness, and something that might have been hope. Do-hyun placed his hand gently on the baby's flank, feeling the now familiar warmth of its scales. We are going to my home now, he said, knowing that the words meant less than the tone and emotion behind them. You will see Earth's sun and moon, hear Earth's birds and whales and wind through trees. And one day, when you are ready, we will return here together. As the stars outside the window began to distort with the start of the fold drive, Do-hyun began to sing again, not the lullabies of that first desperate night, but something new. A song he had been composing with Hanium's help, one that combined human melodies with the multitonal harmonies of the harmonious. Hanium joined in, its voice complementing Do-hyun's perfectly, the harmony between them a bridge spanning the gap between worlds. In that moment, as human and alien sang together aboard a ship bound for Earth, Do-hyun understood the true significance of what had happened beneath that alien tree. It was not just that a human had saved an alien child, or that two species had found a way to communicate. It was that throughout the vast cosmos, with all its dangers and differences, connection remained possible. That compassion, the simple act of singing to a dying creature through the darkness, could transcend the boundaries of evolution and star systems. The medical officer Yunji joined them at the window, watching as the alien planet grew smaller below them. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "in all our preparation for first contact, all our protocols and procedures, we never considered that it might happen through something as simple as a lullaby." Do-hyun nodded. "Perhaps that is because we were too focused on our differences," he replied. "We expected aliens to be completely unlike us, when in reality, the need for connection may be universal." Captain Minjae entered the observation deck, coming to stand beside them. "The Council of Elders has sent a final message," he informed them. "They have asked that we return within 1 Earth year with more humans who can sing." Do-hyun laughed softly. "I suppose we will need to start assembling a choir." Hanium made a sound that seemed remarkably like laughter, a rippling, melodic cascade that caused its scales to shimmer with hints of gold and blue. "The linguistics team believes that within a few months, we will be able to create a basic translation matrix," Minjae continued. "But they also note that direct communication through song seems to bypass many of the limitations of traditional language. They are suggesting that future diplomatic teams include musicians as well as linguists." "Makes sense," Taehyun remarked, joining the group. "Words can be misinterpreted, but music," he gestured toward Hanum, who was still harmonizing softly with Do-hyun. "Music seems to speak directly to something deeper." As the ship accelerated away from the system, the humans gathered on the observation deck fell silent, listening to the duet between Do-hyun and Haneum. The alien melody twined around the human voice, creating patterns that were neither wholly one nor the other, but something new and beautiful. "I have been thinking," Do-hyun said during a pause in their song, "about why Haneum could adapt to human music when it could not harmonize with its own kind." "And?" Yunji prompted. "Perhaps it is because human music itself contains dissonance," Do-hyun suggested. "Our compositions often incorporate tension, resolution, clashing notes that eventually find harmony. Maybe what Hanium needed was not perfect harmony, but rather a tradition that embraced imperfection." Hanium made a sound of what seemed like agreement, its 3 eyes focusing on Do-hyun with unmistakable affection. As the alien sun dwindled to a bright point among countless stars, Do-hyun reflected on how a simple act of compassion, singing to a dying creature because it seemed like the right thing to do, had opened a door between worlds. There would be challenges ahead, of course. Cultural misunderstandings, diplomatic hurdles, the complex task of building bridges between species that had evolved on different planets. But in this moment, watching Hanium experience its first space journey, Do-hyun felt a profound sense of hope. If connection was possible across such vast differences, what other wonders might await humanity among the stars? The fold drive fully engaged and space-time bent around the ship. Earth was waiting, unaware of the remarkable ambassador they were bringing home, an alien child who had been saved by a song. Do-hyun smiled and began to teach Hanium a new melody, an old Earth song about journeys and homecomings and the joy of discovery. Across the stars, the song went on. The end.